Hello everyone, it's technically John and welcome back. We previously learned about basic data types and variables, but in this video we'll learn about operators and taking user input. So what are operators? Operators are signs or symbols that tell the computer to perform mathematical operations. In this video we'll learn about 6 types of operators, and you're probably familiar with 4 of them. So first we have the plus, which adds 2 numbers, and then we have the minus, which subtracts 2 numbers, then we have the times, which multiplies 2 numbers, and we have the divide, which divides 2 numbers. So we're probably all familiar with those operators. Let's take examples. Let's say 3 plus 4 gives us 7. Let's say 7 minus 2 gives us 5. 3 times 5 gives us 15, and 15 divided by 3 gives us 5. And we should note that all of those operators return an integer, 7, 5, 15, while the divide operator returns a float type. We should note this for later. Now the other 2 operators are the modulo operator as well as the exponent or the power operator. So let's start with the modulo operator. The modulo operator returns the remainder of the division between the left operand and the right operand. So for example, if we do 5 modulo 3, what happens is it returns 2. So what it does is it divides 5 divided by 3, but it gives not the answer, it gives the operator. So 5 divided by 3, the modulo, the remainder of it, is 2. An example on the uses of the modulo operator is knowing if a number is even or odd. So if a number is divisible by 2, so in other words, if the modulo of the division by 2 is equal to 0, then this is an even number. So for example, 6 modulo 2 should give us 0, which means that this number is an even number. If we do an odd number, modulo 2, it should give us 1, which means that this is an odd number. And later on we'll learn using conditions how we can validate that value and use it in actual real-life problems. Now let's talk about the exponent or the power operator. This operator raises the first number by the second number to the power of the second number. So if we do 2 to the power 3, it should return 8. If we do 3 to the power 2, it should return 9. So it's multiplying 3 by itself 2 times. There's also a function that is called power. It's written as POW. You can write in between the parentheses 3, 2. It gives the same answer. So this number here is raised to the power of this one. Now let's talk about user input. So we previously learned about variables. So we can set a variable called x and give it the value of 32. And then we can print x. So it's going to print 32. So this is one way of creating variables, but sometimes we do not want to add each and every value. Sometimes we need the user to input the value he needs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a new file and start writing here. So let's say I want to ask the user about his age. So there's a reserved word in Python which is input. So we write input and add 2 parentheses, and inside these parentheses we put quotations and write what we want to prompt the user to answer to. So this is the question: what is your age? Now if we save this, I'm going to save it on my desktop and give it the name tutorial2. So if we run this, it asked what is your age. So we can write in anything and it won't matter because we did not tell it to do anything. Now the great thing here is that we can store the input of the user inside a variable. So what we do is we say x is equal to, or let me name it a clearer name, I'm going to name it age, is equal to the input of what is your age. Now when the user types in his age, it's going to store it in this variable, and then I'm going to print age. Let's save this and I'm gonna run it. It asked me for my age, so I'm gonna say 18, and it printed here 18. Let's make this fancy and add some more features. So I'm gonna ask the user for his name. So I'm gonna make a variable called name and assign it to the input of the user to what is your name. So now it's going to ask the user for their name, and it's going to store it in the variable name. And then, disregard this for a second, now we can print both of the name and the age in the same print statement. This is called string concatenation. So what we're going to do is we're going to print hi. Here we add a space so they do not stay without a space, and we write this plus sign and we say name. So let me show you what this does. If we run this, it's gonna ask me for my name, John. It's gonna ask me for the age, 18, and it says hi, John, because here it printed hi, the string hi, plus the value of the variable name. Now we can add more things, so we can say plus, let's add here a comma, you are plus age plus years old. So pause for a second and think what this piece of code might output. Okay, I'm gonna run it now. It's gonna ask me for my name, John, and my age, 18. Hi John, you are 18 years old. So let me explain what just happened. It printed this hi as it is, and then the name here contains John, which I just inputted here. So hi plus John plus, I just hard-coded this, so it's a constant, and then this variable age is 18 as I inputted it. It's 18 here, and this is a hard-coded string as well. Now let me delete all of this and give you another example. So let's say we want to take two numbers from the user and add them. So we can create a variable called number1 is equal to the input of please type, or please enter the first number, and number2 is equal to the input of please enter the second number. And now what we're going to do is we want to print the value of both numbers 1 and 2 added together, so the sum of those two variables. So we can say that we want to print number 1 plus number 2. Now this probably will not this should not work. You will see why. Let's say 13 and 5. Okay, look what just happened. This is not the answer for 13 plus 5. This is the answer for the string 13. So here they added the string 13 plus the string 5, which is 135. If we want to add 13 plus 5, it should give us 18. So what just happened here? So when we get the input from the user, what is stored in this variable is of type string. So if we want to print the type of numbers 1 and 2, so there is, let's say we want to print, there is a reserved word in Python which lets you print the type of a variable, which is, or the type of anything actually, So you type in type and type in the variable name. So I want to print the type of numbers 1 and 2. So let me save that and run this real quick. Please enter the first number 13 and then 5. So these are the types of both. So this is a string, 13 is a string, and 5 is a string as well. We do not want that. We want them to be integers. So what we're gonna do is we want to convert them. And the way we can convert them is by using the keyword int. So when we want to take this number 1 as an integer, we can type before the input int, we open the parentheses and we close the parentheses. So this takes this value, which is a string, and makes it into an integer. We can do that here as well, and you will now see that this is going to work. So run. The first number is 13, the second number is 5, and it printed 18. So what happened here is number 1 asked us to enter the first number. So the input of this was 13. So it took this 13, stored it into a string, and then the int here turned the string 13 into an integer. And then the same thing happened with number 2. And then we had now number 1 as an integer and number 2 as an integer, and we printed them right here when we added them. So finally guys, as a recap, today we learned about operators. First we learned about addition, the plus operator, and then the minus operator, subtraction, and then the multiplication using the times operator, and then the division, and then the modulo operator, which returns the remainder, and then the power or the exponent operator. And then we learned about taking the user input. So first we learned about the keyword input, which prompts the user to enter his input, and then we learned about the keyword type, which returns the type of a certain value. So we can add a string here, we can add an integer, we can add anything and it would return the type. And then also we learned about the integer or the int keyword, which converts a string or a float into an integer. So finally guys, I want to thank every one of you for sticking around. I really hope you are enjoying and learning from these videos. If you want to see more, please subscribe and leave a like, and also turn the post notifications on to get notified when I upload.